Good morning, everyone. In this video, we are going to continue talking about some methods used in argumentation. More specifically, we'll be looking at induction. So, what is induction? In contrast to deduction, induction uses observations and data from cases to reach a conclusion regarding the nature of unobserved cases. For example, scientists may observe that a certain type of snakebite is poisonous. Therefore, another bite from the same general type is also poisonous. This can easily lead to generalization, inferring conclusions based on the results of the experiment. In this example, it is tempting to state that all snakes of the general type are poisonous, and if the general type includes rattlesnakes, that all rattlesnakes are also poisonous. Due to the broadness and nature of these generalizations, they must be compared to counterexamples. If these counterexamples are true, then the generalization must then be false. Additionally, before exploring different ways to find evidence, it is critical to consider the bias or limitations.
When using samples in an argument, we ought to tell the readers how the samples were chosen. If it does not provide this information, the argument may rightly be treated with suspicion.
There are different methods used to induce conclusions, such as experimentation and examples. Examples include utilizing real events, inventing instances like hypothetical cases, and analogies.
Like always, evidence is required for supporting an argument. One kind of evidence is the result of experimentation. Experiments are deliberately contrived situations that are complex in their technology and are designed to yield particular results. In our society, scientific experimentation as evidence is usually weighted more than the experience of an ordinary person.
Another method of argumentation is through examples. An example is a sample. Real events are frankly evidence from real events. An example from reality may not provide an instant clearly as a writer wishes for and needs to be demonstrated that an example is taken out of its historical context. However, evidence from real events work critically to build or support the writer's argument. When the United States passed the 21st Century Cures Act in 2016, the use of real-world evidence supported regulatory decision-making process, including approval of new indications for approved drugs by monitoring post-market safety and adverse events.
Invented instances. Invented instances are artificial cases or hypothetical situations created to demonstrate an idea or pose as an example of a generalization. These made-up scenarios can help the reader form a better understanding of the argument being presented. The downside of using invented instances is that they cannot substitute evidence as they aren't credible real-life events. They must also be fairly universal examples that most people can make a connection to in order to properly build their own ideas on the argument being presented. A great example of an invented instance is the following moral dilemma proposed by philosopher Charles Fraenkel. It would be nonsense to say, for example, that a non-swimmer has a moral duty to swim to the help of a drowning man. In this hypothetical scenario, Fraenkel avoids naming the figures and maintains a succinct, visual example of a situation he can use for a greater argument. Analogies. The use of analogies in an argument is the act of comparing an example of a situation to the situation being discussed to highlight the similarities or differences they share and how they might lead to parallel solutions. Analogies can be powerful situational comparisons to demonstrate to the reader the main idea of an argument and to show how it can be viewed by multiple aspects. They can also be dangerous, however, as the reader may misunderstand or completely miss the connection between the analogy and the argument. The example cannot be too far from the subject of the argument, or it will cause confusion for the reader and distract from the main point. An example of the use of analogy within an argument is claiming a head of state must have overarching power during wartime, just like how a captain of a ship at sea must be in charge over the crew during a storm. The reader can clearly identify the importance of a captain having full command of their crew at sea, and therefore can connect that role to that of the head of state taking control during wartime. The important part of the process of using analogies is that the reader must decipher their own meaning of the example to the main argument.
Thank you for watching.